We're going to do our Centimillionaire fireside chat next. So I'd like to invite up Yahya Mahmud to the stage here. I think this is going to be great, and I appreciate your talk there, Patrick. I mean, one thing that we always emphasize is to do something unique, present it in a unique way, and obviously Patrick's figured out a model there that's highly unique compared to probably what everybody else is doing here in the room. So thanks for being here, Patrick. All right. So as many of you know, but been to our events before, we like to do the strategy sessions and fireside talks. And what we like to highlight is the natural, genuine stories of how a lot of the family offices are really, like I said this morning, super founders and just real entrepreneurs, probably just like you, who have been able to scale something up. And so that's why I thought Yahya would be great to have here today. He's a seasoned real estate investor with over 25 years of experience. He has his own single family office. He started a business in 2017 that he sold in 2024. He's a proud family man of 2 teenagers. And Me and Q Group is the name of this firm, and they primarily look for co-investment and co-lending opportunities with other families. So we're going to be going through some pre-planned questions here today and kind of getting a little bit of his story and his strategy and mindset out. But what else did you add about yourself and your background that you think would be good for everybody to know?
First of all, thanks for having me, Richard. I love the platform. I've been a huge fan of Richard's platform because it brings genuine people together. And I think you'll learn more when you're within a room with people who are like-minded and share the same values. So for me, it's been a great learning opportunity being part of the platform over the years. And I think just to add to that, when I started, I didn't have any of this plans. We're just regular middle-class people, 9-to-5ers, my wife and myself, just working hard. Opportunities presented themselves, and we were just taking those opportunities, making the best out of them. But we didn't start off handed anything down. We didn't start off with a big plan. And a lot of people ask me, like, when you started, did you really think this is what you were building? The answer is no. We did not. We did not start off aspiring to build a family office and mass the wealth we were able to build. So that's the one thing I'd add.
Some great. Okay. So you took a leap from working in big tech to going into entrepreneurship. What was the really business of that? How did you use that to scale?
I think being in tech and consulting gave me an opportunity to think in a very differentiated way. And when you think of investments, the natural tendency is to think of return on investment. And I think what a lot of people overlook is return on leverage. And that's what, coming from a tech background, helped me differentiate. Because I was always thinking of systems. I was always thinking of how do you put sustainable infrastructure in place that does not really rely on you having to continuously touch it. And how do you actually put that infrastructure in a sustainable fashion, build so that it gets better the less you touch it. And that was sort of an underlying ethos of what we were trying to do. I was fortunate enough because my wife used to work for Ernst & Young, so we were sort of very like-minded, that we were both systemic, analytical. We weren't very hasty in making decisions. We were just really disciplined. And we'd say, okay, how do we want to make that decision? Let's put a framework. We designed the decision framework, then we follow the framework. We could refine the framework over time, but we were very, very disciplined with the decision-making process.
Okay. What do you think really unlocked a momentum, your exponential momentum along the way? Sometimes when people are too systematic, visa-oriented, they get, analysis paralysis, et cetera. So where is the growth really start compounding?
I think from a return perspective, it started compounding when we made it our conviction that we are in the wealth business, and we just had a single client, which was our family. So that was a turning. However, that's not how our business snowballed. Our business snowballed when we started hiring for ownership. That was a major turning point for us because we stopped bringing in people to assume roles. We started bringing in people who were taking on leadership positions, and we were empowering them with the right frameworks, with the right support, with the trust to make decisions autonomously, while preserving, from a risk perspective, the reputational risk that we would take on from empowering others to make those decisions. But I'd say that was sort of the phenomenal turning point for us. It was truly pivotal when we started hiring for ownership. Bring in people, empower them, and just let them do their thing.
And can you say what the business was that you scaled up?
Yeah, so we started investing in real estate literally as soon as we got out of college. So my wife and I met in university, so we're very fortunate. We grew up together. So she's truly my partner in everything we've built, and she's usually smarter than I am. And I'm lowering my voice now because she's not in the room, so I can say it out loud. But we, well, yeah, on camera, yeah. Thanks. So for us, it's a tricky one because when we started straight out of college, we were really in real estate. It was really easy. We're just buying real estate, we're flipping real estate, we're building and just renting out units, and we weren't selling. But then when the crisis hit, we had to pivot our strategy. We were not sure how to continue doing real estate without getting burnt. And in 2015, we got this opportunity where we were sitting on liquidity and someone asked us if we would lend them money. And I'm like, that's an interesting proposition. We didn't ever plan to be in the lending business, but we started lending money, secured by pretty strong covenants. But 2017, we scaled that. We started actually lending out quite a bit more, and we pivoted a significant portion of our portfolio to private lending. So private credit market backed by real estate. And the business really started just growing. We were in rooms with real estate investors who were like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And we're like, well, we're not sure. We'll coach you, but we're not really going to do it for you. And a year later, we were doing it for quite a lot of people. Our business grew. In 2024, a lot of the financial institutions were struggling because of, interest rates, people not qualifying. And that presented an opportunity, right? In divesting part of your portfolio and part of your business is, I dare to say, because I take a lot of pride in what I built, was a very emotional decision. So we were able to scale it because we were thinking of how we want it to be sustainable. Well, we got a curveball. Someone said, well, we're interested in that part of the portfolio. And the due diligence on that was quite easy for us because we're systems people. Oh, you want to see this? Great. Here's access. You want to vet that? Great. Here's the report. Here's our loan tape. And all of a sudden that ended up being a pretty decent transaction, but being a very, again, systemic person, I used it as an opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, how do I make my overall business and my family office the business and grow it into a more sustainable venture that will grow independently of my efforts, and that would create the legacy that I want for my family.
So one of the ways you were growing, was there a single asset, like a strategic choke point or a certain thing you did that would help people in the room here that maybe they could, look at this similar for their business?
Yeah, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've been a corporate guy for the majority of my career, I ventured into entrepreneurship very late, after 25 years in corporate activity, right? So I learned the hard way the things that we take for granted when you work for a large organization. Simple things like hiring, right? I realized, I have to write the job description. I don't have an HR department. I don't have a recruitment team that's going to screen. I don't have, 10 layers of managers and middle managers screening and interviewing, and I'm just having a 10-minute cup of coffee to shake someone's hand to say, welcome aboard. So one of the key things that I started looking at is that return on leverage. Because the return on leverage, from my point of view, is not just borrowing. It's not just leverage from a financial point of view. It's leverage on people, leverage on time. Can you find someone who's an expert in something that you need done, who can get it done faster and more effectively? If the answer is yes, leverage. Being in a room like this, we're probably connected to some of the smartest people in the world. So leverage your network, leverage your capital, leverage your resources, because sometimes your resources, you built a great asset, and Richard's business is a great example of that. They built great assets to do their own due diligence, but now they open up to the rest of the people in the room. So if you're part of the platform, now you're getting access to all this infrastructure that somebody else has built. That's called leverage. So how do you continuously leverage, right? And your return on leverage is exponential and sometimes infinite, because you can't build everything yourself. And as an entrepreneur, if you try to do that, you'll go significantly slower than if you try to leverage everything you've got access to.
So you believe the plight when Jim Collins famously says that you have to manage so how do you be probably hybrid the rock personally they should be self-managing?
Absolutely. And by the way, that's one of my favorite books. Good to Great has so many lessons that you can take away. And not only would you have made the wrong hire, I think you're really quoting again from Jim Collins. What you need to do is you need to really think hard of who you want on your bus, right? And once you figure out who you want on that bus, you want to figure out which seat on the bus you want them in. And then you just enjoy the ride. Let everybody do their thing.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, well, that's up to we quote it all. And what's you learn the hard way? Do you share with people here in the room?
Money is the worst thing to possess. And the reason is, and I bet you, right? I've already got like multiple messages on the app. Second I step off the stage, people are going to start chasing you because they want to pitch you. And I think this is the worst thing that I've experienced amassing wealth, is that you become a target, right? And I think Richard on multiple occasions made this clear. People who are wealthy are not usually very visible. They try to have a low profile because they don't want to be targeted all the time. What I suggest you do differently, that I think you should take away from being in rooms like this, build trust. There are people that I see here for the 5th time, and those are people that will come up, they won't shake my hand, they'll hug me, right? Because we've built that. We've established the trust. For me, that's important. And when I'm allocating capital, I'm judging and I'm underwriting character before the deal. And character is really important because nobody's gonna be flawless. We all have flaws. We're humans, right? That's just the nature of humans. We have our strengths and our weaknesses. But character tells you who's gonna own shit when shit hits the fan. Like, who's gonna say, listen, we fucked up, we're sorry, and excuse my French, and but this is what happened, this is why it happened, and this is what I'm gonna do about it, right? So when you underwrite and when you look at an investment, you're always really evaluating the person that you're making the investment with before you're evaluating the deal itself. And sometimes the deals you invest in might not be the best deals from a member's perspective, but you're betting on the individual, that individual is going to own what they promise, right? Do they have the ethics, the value system? Do they share the same values? Are they going to be looking at mitigation strategies as and when needed to reflect how they carry themselves? And that for me is the most important thing. So before you start pitching, and that's my advice to all the entrepreneurs in the room, before you start pitching, start building trust and start showing people what you're made of. What do you value? Are you a family person? Do you take care of your parents? Do you take care of your friends? Do you have lifetime friends? How do you treat your friends? How do you respond to your friends? And that tells people a lot about, can they trust you with their money or not? Because before they trust you with their money, they're going to have to trust you with the relationship.
Right, so true. At least a testament in my position, because people literally say, I have some amazing deal. There's this returns in this place. You know, can you introduce you? And there's somebody, multifaceted things going to migrate, the relationship, the trust. Somebody to make a simple introduction, an investor plus 7 figures is something in a speaker that I loved it, so they should invest as a leech and travel, like all those different things. A lot of people don't realize what you just said is so true. So appreciate bringing that. By the way, I came up with these questions and see how we modify 2 of them. It's just like I was curious about. I selfishly wanted to ask you today, and I did not obviously need to eat them, but appreciate being here and the shooting quiz. So there's a couple more questions. What are some of those mental models that you operate on that others do not? We've already heard your very systematic, you're ESO oriented, you look for leverage, return on leverage, big tech, big utility backgrounds, your brains work a certain way, system thinking, etc. But what have you not mentioned that is, or your mental models that lead you to be the top way 11%?
Barbell strategy. That for me is one that really we practice every day. It's really risk adjusted, low intensity that compounds over time. So when you think of this, it's really the small things that you do in a risk adjusted fashion that can unlock asymmetric upside. So from my point of view in the lending business, I'll just use a pragmatic example so that people understand this. I'm assuming everybody in the room would understand what loan to value is. So if we're looking at a 65% loan to value request and someone is willing to put in, 50% loan to value loan amount, and I take a slice of that, a slither of that, even if it is in a much higher risk spectrum, but the entire container is already bought. So the risk is already contained. So despite the fact that I'm looking at a higher risk exposure, I'm actually in a risk adjusted position getting the very high yield in a very low risk environment. So that is sort of the situation that's the mental model that I think of. What are the small things, the really small things that can, in a risk adjusted position, increase my risk exposure slightly, but give me exponential yield on that small risk that I added to my portfolio. So that's, I call barbell strategy because it's really easy. Just think of risk. Where am I on the risk spectrum? How can I move myself on the risk spectrum and find those sweet spots? Then they're usually transition points. So that's the other one that I would personally emphasize besides the return on leverage, which is my favorite mental model.
Awesome. And I know a lot of people in here, think about mental models, how to improve them, et cetera. One of the AI tools of the 30 is a mental model upgrader tool. And we documented 100 of the top mental models from the billionaire collective intelligence tool, 100 mental models from Warren Buffett, 100 from Mark Cuban, 100 from Bezos, 100 from Elon Musk, 100 from all the investors that spoke on the stage. And with the 2,500 mental models of the AI tool, you can tell it that you're trying to get down with your business. And it will suggest you mental models from a variety of ultra wealthy investors, famous billionaires, people on stage, etc. Just like this. I appreciate sharing. Super helpful. And so what are tips related to due diligence or vetting partners along the way? We heard that you look for character first. So obviously that would normally be part of your answer. But what else do you look for right away in due diligence? The money, you have to be really careful, obviously, what you're lending against, who you're lending to, et cetera.
Yeah, I think we always start with character. So we evaluate what you told us versus what we send out. So we love it when we see, well, I had a bankruptcy a few years ago. This property was in foreclosure. So it's up front. We know this is someone who does not lie. So that's the first piece of it, which we evaluate very quickly. The second is we never land on a property unless we've walked the property. And I think, that's something that is common for those of you who are in Beverly Hills. You probably heard John Lutero say the same thing. Anybody who's in a lending position is looking for security. But more importantly, in the lending business, it's not about putting the money out. It's about getting the money back, then some. So for us, we always start with how do we get our money back and how much time and effort is going to take us if we have to recourse. And if we have to revert to that, that's a very worst case scenario. And we've only had to do that twice in our business, which is very fortunate. Not because we're good, but because we tend to have a lot of repeat borrowers, people who we've built trust with over the years, and we try to stay within our lane. So when we're underwriting a deal, we're always looking for character, we're looking for covenants, we're looking for security, but most importantly, how long is it going to take us to recover our principal, our capital, if we were to go into that situation? And if it's, for example, in a jurisdiction where it's very lengthy, we probably won't touch it. If it's in a very complex corporate structure where you really need to sort of go after 3 different corporate entities and full recourse against the personal guarantee, and it just gets too complicated. Make it simple when you're presenting the deal. That's what I always say.
Got it. Yeah, Sam Zell had a great book, Ultimately Being Too Subtle. He talked about being mentored by Pritzker, Pritzker coached him that like most businesses who have the one key critical element. That sounds like for you, it's sort of character in person. And then how easy is that for me to say the holiday max on the scale rather than being like, it's like the long central.
Yeah, and I think it's also psychological, right? When you're dealing with an 8th generation family office, it's very different. They probably built a lot of systems, outsourced a lot of that. They've got probably advisors, wealth managers, multifamily offices that they spread the risk. And yeah, for first gen, like people who built wealth themselves, money's near and dear, right? Like they worked hard to build it. It's their sweat. So in a lot of times, I think for first gen family offices, they tend to be a little bit more pragmatic with how they perform their due diligence. And they tend to exercise excessive caution, but at the same time, they're more boots on the ground, if I may use that term. They roll up their sleeves. They're more engaged in the deals. They're more engaged in where they made their money. They're more engaged in the investments. They want to be advisors to their borrowers, to their co-investors, because they believe that their true capability is what got them there. So that's part of their net worth. It's who they are.
Right. Right. Yeah. Policies. Would it raise what would be an extra $1 million insight you could leave your room and say you haven't missed it all yet? What could
just be yourself. You don't need to fake it till you make it. If this is your first fund, say it's my first fund. If it's your first deal, say it's your first deal. Just explain how you're going to mitigate risks. If you walk up and you say, this is the deal, great. But what I like more is, this is the deal, these are the risks. And this is what I've thought of so far. This might be a non-exhaustive list of risks. This is my risk register. This is my mitigation strategy if risk materializes. This is how I would go about mitigating the risk. For me, that's the one thing that I see a lot of people overlook. It's not about how great the return is. You could do 18%, 20%, 50% return. That's not what's important. What is the risk that I'm carrying to get to that yield? And if you explain the risk well enough, you explain how you're going to own it and how you're going to mitigate if those risks materialize, I think that's the $1 million piece of nugget that I would leave people with that I usually see overlooked in a lot of pitches.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Teamwork, big round of applause.
Thank you.
Join the Family Office Club by visiting familyoffices.com. We look forward to seeing you at our next live event.
If you are a founder, raising capital, developing real estate, or you're an investor, would love for you to get involved in the Family Office Club. I've run this community for 18 years now. We've hosted 300 live events. We have 17 million social media group members and followers. We have the #1 YouTube channel on family offices. We have the #1 most popular podcast on family offices. You can learn more about us and our membership options at familyoffices.com. We have 30 in-person events planned in 2026 and another dozen events this year. Please go to familyoffices.com to learn more.